Senators Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are nestled in one another's arms, sweat glistening on their muscled chests. They kissed softly and tenderly. It's the middle of the night in a hotel somewhere on the campaign trail, and they are in love. So, if you were an animal, which would you be? Asks Ted. Let me think, says Marco. A manatee. Welcome, friends, to the glorious world of congressional fan fiction. This episode has been in the making for quite some time now, and it might be a bit of a stretch to say in the making because it sounds like I've been hard at work. But what I mean is that the idea was there, sort of lodged in my brain in a larval state, even before the pandemic. Now, what idea could be so good that you postpone it for more than 2 years, you might ask?
Or what idea might be so bad that you postpone it for 2 years?
Yeah, well, it remains to be seen, I guess. So I have summoned you here today because on a slow Friday afternoon in about September-ish, 2019, I read an article by one Samuel Ashworth titled McDreamy, McSteamy, and McConnell.
Oh, no! No!
And this was...
I refuse this image!
Yes. And this was my first introduction to the concept of fan fiction starring politicians. And not, your usual historical figures. Although, to be honest, picturing some sort of torrid affair between Napoleon and someone else is also quite disturbing. But this genre is supposed to be, about the Boris Johnsons and Trumps and Macrons and other tormented figures of our present.
I mean, the only way I can understand the existence of this, if it's deliberate bad fic or if it's like crack. Like, that's the only way I can, if it's not one of these, then it's just people who actually should be on medication.
Well, I mean, as the saying goes, ¿por qué no los dos? Because as the article informs us, there's quite a mixed bunch of people writing these. And since you are the resident mistress of all things fandom and Tumblr derivative, you have been selected to be disgusted, repulsed, and outright traumatized alongside me. So you're welcome. Now, before we begin, on a scale from meh to whatever weird shit you're reading, how crazy do you expect this genre to be? Considering that fanfic authors and their readers already inhabit a pretty weird corner of the internet.
First of all, I need to understand what weird is to somebody. I mean, weird as in they are extraterrestrial beings having sex in outer space, or weird as in why would anybody want to picture these people naked? I mean, very different kind of weird, because I can come up with extremely weird scenarios, but I can understand why somebody might want to imagine those. Whereas, I'm sorry, but this kind of weird is, I'm totally kink shaming here, just so we're clear.
Of course. But full disclosure.
Full disclosure, yeah. No, if you are fapping thinking about Mitch McConnell, like, you have issues.
I don't even want to touch that.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is weird in itself. Like, you don't even need a scenario for this to be weird.
So the article I've mentioned dives in by giving the readers a taste rather than a definition of what political fanfics are. So brace yourself.
Okay.
Senators Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are nestled in one another's arms, sweat glistening on their muscled chests. They kissed softly and tenderly. It's the middle of the night in a hotel somewhere on the campaign trail, and they are in love. So, if you were an animal, which would you be? Asks Ted. Let me think, says Marco. A manatee. Welcome, friends, to the glorious world of congressional fan fiction. That's quite a start.
Yeah, no, this is like, no, I just cannot. It's like somebody took my favorite cake and, just put whatever, I don't know, soup in it. I don't know, or something equally disgusting. Like, no.
So fan fiction is the sort of thing you still might have to explain to a lot of people, even though there are millions around the world reading or writing it. And I know you've talked a bit about it in our first two episodes, you know, the ones provocatively titled From Fan Fiction to Fascism. But can you provide a brief explanation of it for our listeners again? And maybe, I don't know, any updates from the world of fan fiction or any noticeable trends that you've observed?
I mean, I think fan fiction, be like the easiest way to describe it is any sort of derivative story from an already existing work of some kind, right? That would be an...
It's the sort of exercise you did when you were a child reflexively, like, okay, now the story is done, whether it's a movie, whether it's a story you've been read, whatever, but like, what if?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. Like, I mean, everything can be fan fiction, as we have already discussed. A lot of what reading muggles might consider a lot of like serious work or serious literature could very well be in the category of fan fiction, in the sense that it was based on already existing stories at the time, starting with the extremely well-known and beloved Shakespeare.
Grimm tales.
Yeah,
Brother Grimm.
Yeah, I mean, I think Shakespeare is the one that everybody somehow just gives as an example, because it's not like he said otherwise. You know? Yeah, but somehow for people who are not in fandoms, I am not sure what they think fan fiction is, but they generally just think it's a less...
Something silly?
Something silly, yeah. And by God, sometimes it is. Like, yes. But I think what makes fan fiction different from any other kind of writing is that it deliberately tries to cater to its audience. And I've seen two ways of referring to this on Tumblr, and I like both of them. One, it was called "I would like more cake," or "Is there more cake?" Like you read something, you see something anyway, you like it, and you would like basically more of the same. That would be "Is there more cake?" And another one that I've seen as a description was "I would like the same thing but slightly to the left." So yeah, when you love something enough that you would like to see endless variation on a theme.
Yeah. Now, on the topic of political fanfics, more specifically, our article, lest we forget, there was this disturbing article, continues. Most political fanfic features world leaders. Archive of Our Own features dozens of erotic romances between Emmanuel Macron and Justin Trudeau, or David Cameron and a rotating harem of male British MPs. While the past 2 years have seen a proliferation of meme-ready Trump Shrek/fic. Sample line. Donald Trump was building a wall. No, not to keep out the Mexicans. He built it around his heart to keep anyone from getting there and breaking it, like Shrek did.
Yuck. No. Why?
It's not racism, it's just heartbreak, honey. Now, I'd like your comment on the following statement. What makes this strange is that at its core, fan fiction is about genuinely liking a person, says Dr. Amber Davison, co-author of Politics for the Love of Fandom, Fan-Based Citizenship in a Digital World. And historically, well, not many people like Congress. So do you agree with this take?
Yes, I do.
So it's it matches the "I want some more cake, please" description you gave.
Yeah, sure. This is. I mean, I'm hoping that by the end of this episode, I might understand human nature more, because so far I cannot fathom any sort of reason for the existence of this thing.
But have you not read any sort of spite fics, so to speak?
I'm not sure what you mean by spite.
Fan fiction that, for, I don't know, maybe has a villain of a story arc as its main character, but not from a sympathetic perspective.
Oh, of course, but...
So, as in trying to punish them more than they feel that they were punished for their deeds in the series, for instance.
Of course, but even if, let's say, I'm reading something with a desire to see revenge on a character, or, or spite fic in the sense of, as a collective, we have watched or read something, and we have just been like, this author is dumb, we can do better. Look here, honey, this is how you do it. But I would never start to read something about, because when it comes to political fiction, as you said, there is no story to begin with. It's not a movie, it's not a book. It's just the personality of those people. And if I'm not interested, like, why? I am disturbed about the fact that they are alive. No, I wouldn't take part in spending my time to read even horrible things happening to them. I would read horrible things happening to them if it were for real.
if it were the news.
If it were the news, exactly. Like, would you like a live stream from the chamber where, I don't know, we are torturing Mitch McConnell? Sure, pass it on. I need something, fun to do while I'm eating my lunch.
Okay, so the article goes on to give a few more examples of fics and what made their authors write them. So now, as you said, we learn more about human nature, I guess.
Okay.
Amanda Savitt, an Affordable Care Act supporter, said writing fanfiction made me feel like I had a little bit of control. In her story, Steve Rogers is divorced from his role as Captain America's alter ego and is now a young diabetic art student. Afraid the Republican Party will kill the ACA and take away his access to healthcare, Steve and his best friend Bucky Barnes decide to marry so Steven can secure health insurance. Eventually, Steve and Bucky attend a town hall led by a Paul Ryan-esque figure. Steve delivers a scorching tirade against the repeal of the ACA. In the climax of her story, Steve triumphantly punches the Paul Ryan-esque figure in the face.
I mean, this one I understand. Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, and then it goes on with an important highlight and the jumping off point for our reading today.
Mm-hmm.
While William would... Okay, so while William something, because I cannot read his name, sorry, we tried, I'm not going to do another take, defined poetry as the spontaneous overflow of emotion recollected in tranquility, fan fiction omits the tranquility part, which may explain the sheer ferocity of a lot of the eroticism. So let's have a bit of that ferocious eroticism, shall we?
Oh dear.
I picked up a wonderfully irreverent oeuvre of fiction titled Dribble-Down-Economics.
Oh God.
Props to the writer, who is a British gay man who admits to having made a happy mistake by putting pen to paper and joining in love and lust. Two giants of neoliberalism, Thatcher and Reagan.
Oh God.
So the whole piece starts off from Maggie's point of view as she reminisces about her first time in America, her negative impression of most of its men, except for Ronnie, of course, with whom she's connected through what she feels is the greatest transatlantic partnership.
Okay.
The inciting incident is a letter of Reagan's, described by Thatcher as a man with stark blue eyes that shone like the headlights of a privatized railway train.
Oh God.
And in this letter, Reagan basically sims for Thatcher politically, and the implication is thrown in there in more carnal ways as well, perhaps. And Maggie's quite taken with the letter, as she thinks how she wished she could kiss Reagan as much as she had that beautiful letter. It is rather hard to French kiss a piece of paper without suffering some nasty cuts. I gather most of your reaction will be just suppressing vomiting.
I will, after this episode, I will just have to go and bathe myself into actually fan fiction that has, redeeming quality of making me feel good.
Okay, so here's also a bit about the context of their meeting, because we need to know just where on the imaginary timeline these two are going to frolic. Both of their terms were in full swing, having received a heartfelt and reassuring re-election, which had lit up Margaret's heart as few things did these days, save the suffering of minors' children.
Okay.
Walking through the military base, her heart swelled with confidence and pride, knowing that she would be able to provide the best of news to Reagan. Her recent meeting with charming and sexy Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev had gone according to plan. Whilst he was sometimes disarming, wink wink, she had been able to force further agreements, and she felt deep within her body that the end of communism was all but a matter of time. Her black girl boss heels clicked commandingly on the concrete as she walked towards the meeting room, flanked on either side by security guards and followed close behind by her personal secretary. Now, we get to the room Ronnie's in, and both get immediately pretty hot and bothered upon meeting. So Maggie tells her staff, "For reasons of confidentiality," she said, looking at each of them in turn, "Mr. Reagan and I would greatly appreciate if you were to sit outside for this meeting." Everything from here onwards was like an unregulated free market. Terrifying, but wonderful at the same time, and would arguably be significantly better than if she had scripted it or planned it.
God.
It's Ronnie's turn to make a move, and unfortunately I cannot do a Reagan impression. Not that my Thatcher impression is any good, but okay. So, "You're a strong woman. You've always impressed me. From the moment I met you, I knew that we were politically kindred spirits. And whilst you're very effective in crushing the unions, I feel like the opposite is happening to my heart." Maggie goes into some equally torrid confessions. "The way you've artfully managed to shift your country's politics so far to the right, your federal judges perfectly aligned with your politics, and all of the help you've provided to help overthrow those dirty communist governments in the Middle East and Central America. Mr. Reagan, I am not only proud of your strong and admirable action, but proud to know you."
We are happy for her.
Two souls connecting. It's a joy to see. Compelled by some ungodly, although deeply traditional and Christian force, or perhaps the invisible hand of the free market, both Reagan and Thatcher stood up from the meeting table, making their way towards each other on the side furthest from the door. Like the good conservative Christians that they were, the two of them prayed silently, almost in tandem, for the forgiveness of God for what they were about to do.
Oh God.
Okay, so now things get steamier. Reagan inhaled sharply, and she faltered for a second, worrying about the existence of a grave mistake. But his eyes and his demeanor were inviting and as unregulated as their economic ideology. She drew back from their tender kiss. "Would you like to deregulate some industries with me?" Or would he ever? They had been possessed with an animalistic vigor, not dissimilar to the Hobbesian conception of human nature from which their shared ideology was predicated upon. Now they launch into some domination peppered with choking action, and then, just as she was about to lean in once again for another girl boss Thatcherite kiss, Reagan stopped. He seemed to suck in a pained breath, as if he was about to admit something horrific, or actually repent for a war crime. "Thatcher, please, beg me." Now, following a brief moment of surprise, Maggie's very rational about this. If Reagan wanted to take it in the ass, that was fine. It wasn't like he was promoting the gay lifestyle in schools, after all.
There is a line to everything.
Of course. She pulled him into a quick and harsh kiss, leaving him winded and his lips desperate for her touch again. Lying back on the table, papers pushed aside to make room for him, and Operation Cyclone files fluttered to the floor. "You dirty, dirty criminal, Mr. Reagan! What were you thinking invading Grenada like that? And what about the government debt? You know, I'll spare more details because this just gets grosser and grosser, and it ends in an appropriately conservative fashion with the woman not coming, and
yeah,
and I wanted to sort of veer the conversation into why, like you asked, why would people write about this, and how much, because, how much of it is in earnest, how much of it is sort of like revenge on people who obviously have more control over each of our lives than we like to. And I think, I'm not by any means an expert on this, but as I was like perusing archive of our own, it seems like there are some people who aren't using it as, the original article article also stated, just for sort of revenge or getting back to or poking fun of important public figures. But there's, especially with regards to Thatcher, there's a weird corner of the internet where she is part of the Harry Potter universe. Yeah, and she's has like talks with the Ministry of Magic.
I mean, yeah, I got nothing now. I was sort of prepared when you started talking and you said that in regards to Thatcher there is actually, and I sort of imagined that you would say that there are people who like are genuinely get a hard on thinking about her.
God.
Yeah, no, I mean I can imagine not necessarily young people today, but back in the day, I think she might have gotten some conservative genuinely, hard. The same way, what's her name? The proposed vice president from back in...
Oh, Sarah Palin.
Yeah, Sarah Palin definitely was getting some people stiff in the audience.
She was. They were targeting the sort of wood part of the electorate, the woody part of the electorate.
Definitely. So I could see some people, doing this for real. Only I don't know that those people would write fan fiction.
I think there's also this weird thing that how there are. And this is not a very rare kink. Many people have kinks for different uniforms, whether it's police uniforms or army-related or things like that. Yeah,
sure.
So I think, and I'm guessing there's this sort of attraction to power and authority, and maybe that's sort of linked with writing political fan fiction as well, because after all, you're writing about people who either are in power or were in power. Yeah. And probably decided the fate of many others. So I don't know, it might be that as well.
Could be.
We're just king shaming here, like the king shamers that we are. But
yeah, no, I was trying to think if there is any sort of political figure that I know that I would be that in any way aroused more than my interest. And no, nothing comes to mind. Like no.
I think the article mentioned as well the whole stuff about Macron and Trudeau when they had a sort of photo up at some point a few years ago as they were, walking and talking, and people were making a big fuss about, oh, this is a bromance, this is whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think people also like to project onto what is the very murky and sort of, let's be honest, disgusting world of politics many a times. Yeah. They maybe like to project something that is more noble, I guess.
It came to my mind, like there is one political figure. I wouldn't read fan fiction because I honestly, no. But there is one political figure that at a certain point in my life, I would have been like, I can get down with this. And I think you know who I'm thinking of.
Do you want to disclose it?
You don't know who I'm thinking about?
I think I do.
From off in the distance, there comes a man, crazy seeking vengeance against our peaceful land. Jacket collar raised on a black motorbike. He puts the hand in the landing and wants to take our pride.
Yannis Varoufakis.
Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't look like, my type, but at that particular moment in time and politics, I would have understood.
Yeah. And I mean, also, even if whether or not you either feel like he's your type or you like his politics, he's a charismatic guy, and that's enough for many people. So
No, I mean, he is a charismatic guy, but what I'm saying is that somebody like Trudeau looks a lot more like the way I like my man to look, but for some reason...
Trudeau with the beard or without the beard? I'm guessing without the beard.
Like Trudeau with nothing, because for some reason...
Trudeau with nothing. As in naked?
Yeah, no, I mean... I cannot exactly explain why, because he is definitely a good-looking man, and he definitely, he has the aesthetics that I generally go for, but, I don't know, something about him always seemed so fake, I don't know, so I guess... And Macron, on the other hand, also, I can understand he has...
The most French guy in this world.
The most French guy in this world, I mean, he is also... he has like, quite symmetrical features, let's say. But
Okay.
but again,
What about his bone structure?
yeah. he has quite an all right bone structure as far as his face goes. But no. On the other hand, as I said, Yanis Varoufakis, by the time he became, let's say, an international political figure, because I have seen some pictures of him when he was younger and he still had hair, and it was like a big no. So definitely getting older did him a world of good.
Also, I think, on you have the whole charismatic man politicians, but also there was a sort of fascination, and I think there still is, with the younger lot, the younger female lot, so to speak, like AOC.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that, you can imagine some fluff pieces being written with her as a main character.
I mean, would she be the one you would pick? If you were to read something in earnest?
Probably I would feel like it's going to be more of an okay experience than with many other characters I can scroll through my memory right now. Because,
Any other women?
I'm imagining there might be... I haven't looked this up actually, but now I'm curious. I think there might be probably some fanfic with Angela Merkel.
Oh my God!
She's been a player on the political scene for quite a few years, up until recently. So, and she cultivated that whole image of Mutti and
yeah. No, I mean the only way
and Germans not being weird about sex. I mean,
the only way I can imagine Angela is when I'm procrastinating and not doing whatever I'm supposed to be doing, and she would in the corner with a whip being like, "This is not how you're going to get ahead in life, young woman."
Okay, so it's Angela Dominatrix.
Totally. It's the only way for me with Angela.
But if she is in that role, then what is Ursula going to do?
Just have a very weird hair that never moves.
Because you see, I think that Ursula, she fits the whole stern ice queen look more that you would have for the dominatrix.
Sure, but somehow
than Merkel.
I don't find her all that convincing. Maybe give her a few more years. I don't know.
She will age into her role, just like Varoufakis did.
Probably. But with Ursula, I have to say I am all the time. I am fascinated by her hair's ability to have always the same shape and be completely unmovable.
That's a bit like my mom's hair as well. So.
But your mom's hair is shorter, right?
Well, yeah, but it's also stubborn, so it doesn't change. The style doesn't change. The color also hardly ever does, and I think it's been the same since the 80s.
Yeah, no, but like unless I am having a really bad memory day, your mom's hair is shorter, so it's easier to have.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, to have a shorter hairstyle that doesn't move. but Ursula, let's leave it like that. So somehow I imagine Ursula and Trump buying hairspray from the same store.
Definitely, and maybe passing on like hair care and styling tips.
Yeah. Like how do you manage to like never have a hair out of place? Well, in Trump's case, his whole hair was out of place, but always in the same out of place way.
I mean, it's with Trump, it was a bit like with Boris Johnson. If you consistently have a bad hair day, then it's your style.
Yeah, it's like. Sure. And well, with Boris, as we know, actually he cultivates this image. Like he goes for this. He strives for this. In Trump's case, it's clear that he has some sort of shame regarding his bald patch. Whereas Boris just thinks that this makes him endearing, and weirdly enough, it worked. I mean, it actually worked for him.
This is what the working classes do.
Yeah,
they're just unkempt and uncouth.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I imagine him. Yeah. who could be in a political fan fiction like in earnest? Michelle Obama.
Okay.
Yeah, like I have to say, I have this thing about listening to her speeches. She's just that good, just telling you stuff. So I could I could imagine that.
Just have her speak at you.
Have her speak at me. Yeah, like I mean, Barack was obviously a good speaker, but somehow something about him I never found him appealing. But Michelle, on the other hand, yeah.
Yeah. Pity having great rhetoric does not equate, being effective.
Yeah, no, doesn't equate with anything other than having a great,
yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. But just to make this more awkward, I was thinking of our own political scene, the Romanian politicians, men and women, and...
It giggles all the way.
Yeah, it giggles all the way down. And like, I could have nightmares for a month, just going like...
Iliescu fanfiction.
Dăncilă with Dragnea.
Ooh,
steamy
stuff.
Steamy stuff, right?
Steamy.
Or like...
Yeah, and also it could be a fanfiction about a long-distance relationship once he got into jail.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The longing, the sorrow, the I'll be there for you, baby.
Yeah. I will keep your bank account warm. Also, I could imagine Gabriela Firea with basically the whole of the PSD,
Pandele disapproves.
Pandele disapproves. Yeah, and like... So, what were we even... like? What were we going for with this episode?
I don't know. We just went places. It's fine. We need some therapy, and this is like a therapeutic session of just...
Yeah, like the world is going to shit.
And here we are, just messing around.
Yeah, so I think, did you look up on Archive of Our Own, like how much work is in this sphere? Are there like a couple of hundreds? Are there thousands of political fanfictions?
Well, not all of them have the political tag or anything like that. So, and I mean, also, I guess at one point you have to decide what's going to be labeled as historical and what's current, because it might have been current at the time of their writing. And also, are we considering, for instance, I don't know, Churchill? Are we considering him historical or still political fan fiction? So and like I said, there are instances where there are characters.
Is there a fan fiction with sex involving Churchill? This thing exists?
I am sure that you can find something.
I know what the universal law of the internet says, that if you can think it, then there is porn about it. But like, really?
I mean, I just read your excerpts from basically porn with Thatcher and Reagan, so...
I mean, Reagan was an actor, and as I said, I'm sure Thatcher just was like that kind of woman in her day. But Churchill is just like a blob walking. I mean...
To answer some of your, or to give you more details about the scope of this genre, I'm not sure about the numbers, as I said, but Archive of Our Own, you can look for political fan fiction for Russian 21st century, France 21st century, US 20 and 21st century, Spain 21st century, Netherlands 21st century, US 19th century,
Great.
Australian.
Okay.
20th and 21st century. So, there's quite a variety. I don't see anything about Romania yet, but never too late to add to that.
Yeah, no, like the Romanian political scene can just be like, no. I can somehow imagine how the political fan fiction from older days in US might have come up after the big hit that was Hamilton.
Yeah,
and maybe people imagining the politicians with the faces of the actors and performance from the musical. That would make actually more sense, since a lot of them were actually good looking. you know. But like, come on, Ted Cruz, like, no, I can't even do it to mock him, because that would just, no, because my brain needs to like also, you know, take that image in. And it's like, I would a lot more be into like very short fics where they just die in many and horrible ways. Yeah, I think I
like the Happy Tree Friends or something like that.
Yes, Happy Tree Friends, but with
make it happen.
Yes, this totally Happy Tree Friends, but with politicians. I think that is like the best thing I've heard.
So we didn't waste an hour.
We didn't.
I'm glad something came out of it.
Yes. Like, I realized that, you know, to each his own. But for me,
this is what works for you.
Yes, this is what works for me. Yes.
Yeah.
How about you? You're not all that into gore, and because what obviously people who are not my friends do not know is that I genuinely enjoy watching horror movies and reading horror books. So
yeah, I don't.
Yeah. So like, and I have this. I find great joy when I watch a horror movie, to see that the horror, you know, the body horror type of things, if it happens, it's genuinely true to life. Because since I'm a doctor, I'm very into like, yeah, this really looked like how it would genuinely look if you chop up a person. Awesome!
Oh my God, you're a nerd about corpses and sometimes I really wonder
how it happened.
Yeah.
How come we became friends?
Yeah, but I guess it also helps that, you know, you said you are grossed out by some of these things because you tend to immediately visualize it, whereas I think I'm friends with both you and some of our other friends because I don't immediately visualize things. Like I can just, you know, turn the visualizing thing on and off, and I don't apply it when I'm not safe near, you know, near people who don't abuse the whole making you visualize gross things.
You have a visualizing dimmer.
Yeah.
Just going a little bit up, a little bit down, depending on the occasion. Yeah. Okay. So, for all the fanfic writers out there, as we all know, even the people who don't know much about fanfiction, they know that it's generally porn, which is, you know, sometimes true and sometimes not true. But since actually fanfiction can be a lot of things, I do not see why not Happy Tree Friends with politicians. Yeah.
Well, seeing as to how there's no good way to end this.
Of course, there is an obvious good way to end this, you know? Like any good horror movie, we just chop them up one at a time, and, you know, and we go, you know, for having a final girl. I mean, we can have AOC as our final girl. We just chop all of the other ones up, and we are left with her being all traumatized by, you know, everything that fucking happened, which is basically real life.
So for anyone still listening,
which is nobody.
Which is nobody probably at this point. Since it's nobody, there's no point in me telling you to do the usual thing, so bye.
Well, what can I say? Goodbye to everybody and just make slasher political fanfic happen. Yeah, that's my take from this episode. Bye!
Okay, bye!